Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Meet, helping you on your journey to personal development. So today I'm really excited because I have someone that I love and respect and value their input into society. We have Wonuola Okoye, who will be joining us today to talk about the whole process of being able to achieve your goals and get it done. So what are the barriers that we face when we want to move forward in life and make progress? What are the things that we keep on coming up across that stop us from getting to our end goal? We're going to be delving into this topic, and hopefully you'll be able to learn some tips, hints, and tricks to apply into your life today. So I'm really going to pull that out of her so that we have something that we can walk away with, action points to put into place. Now, Wonuola Okoye has had her hands in many pies. She's been in retail, fashion. She's currently the CEO of Brandco, and she has lots of other things that she's doing, like Apart Africa as well, which sells luxury handbags. Now we're going to delve into that a little bit, and I really want to find out how she did some of those things and how she's working with some of those things in her own personal life. But during this conversation, do feel free to ask her questions, ask myself questions. This is a very interactive show, so you can put your questions in the live chat. There is a 10-second delay, so just be aware of that. When I ask a question, put your information in straight away. As soon as I see it, then I can respond. And hopefully you will enjoy the show. I'm going to bring one in now, and then we can go straight into it. Hello, Wonuola, how are you?
I'm good. Does the 10-second delay apply to me as well?
Yes, it does.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
we're having a private conversation in our little, space here, and then it's going out onto YouTube, but it'll be about 10 seconds later.
Nice.
So what I do like to ask my guests when they first come in is I'd like you to complete this sentence. I am a person who ... What would you say?
Off the top of my head, boxes. That's the only thing I can think about really quickly. I'm a person who boxes professionally, actually.
Boxes as in like boxing,
as in like
sports?
Yeah. I've been boxing for
Oh,
about 4 years now. Yes, actually.
you've been boxing for 4 years. I think you might just have to speak a little bit louder, just so
Okay.
that we can get your audio through.
Okay. Can you hear me better
So,
now?
so you're a person who boxes, and what do you
Professionally.
Professionally? Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so you have many tools in your kit then, because that's something that I didn't know that you did. Boxes professionally. Okay, so we'll ask you a bit about that later on and see if we can watch some of your fights. Great.
Yeah, you
So
can.
she's a multifaceted lady, and she boxes. There you go. Not just for fitness, but for professional work as well. So that's quite good. Right. What we brought you in here for is really to help us and help society at large, for whoever's going to watch this video later on, to be able to do something that we all know we should be able to do, but somehow it ends up going all wrong and gets all twisted. So we set goals, we set a plan, and we say, this is what I want to be able to achieve. But then we look back and we're like, hold on a second, what happened to that goal or plan that I had said that I was going to be able to do? And we really want you to help us unravel why this happens and maybe get some tips and tools that we can put into place. But before we go into that, I'm going to ask you a question about your company, Apart Africa. Is that correct?
Okay. Yes, correct.
So my understanding is that you started this luxury handbag company with just 6,000 naira. Is that correct? Or is that just something that's been put out there on the internet?
No. You're absolutely right, actually.
Okay. So tell us a bit about that goal in terms of, right, you thought, I want to do this, and this is how much I'm going to put towards it. Money is not going to be a barrier. How did you get from A to B?
Okay, so I'll try and take you through the process. Okay. First of all, what I really enjoy doing is starting businesses, okay, and helping people build their businesses, from the bottom up.
Okay.
And for me, because I'd been working a lot in retail with retailers, with the designers, because we had stores, in Lagos, it became apparent to me the different types of, price points that made sense, the different types of, items that people generally came into the store looking for, and the different types of specific products that made the most sense in terms of product margins and so on.
Yes.
So immediately, I understood that going into leather goods or handbags, whatever you'd like to call it, was something that could have been a very lucrative idea for me. So of course, if you've been to Nigeria before, a lot of people haven't been, but we have a lot of good craftsmen from all of West Africa. So you have, the Ivorians, you have the Senegalese, you have Nigerians as well, who are very, very good craftsmen.
Yes.
And we have this amazing market called the craft market. It's the art market here in Lekki. And so you have a lot of people there who make bags, very, very traditional style type, is where all the tourists go when they come to Nigeria, really, just to buy artifacts and so on and so forth. I went on a little, yes, exactly. So I went on a little fact-finding journey to just, immerse myself into that scene. And what I found was, they have amazing, good quality, very, very well finished handmade leather goods. Now, the story about the 6,000 naira is very simple. Me wanting to start an additional business, of course, was fully spurred on the fact that I was living in Nigeria. I wasn't working, I had like my store, but, it just was never enough. It was never enough because the dollar was like climbing up, exponentially. And, when in Nigeria, you have to travel abroad, you have to buy things from abroad. And if you can't afford to buy, the currency, that it's ridiculous. So it was like, I need to make money. I need to figure out how to create a product that I can export and start earning foreign currency. This is the genesis of actually starting that business, right? So, of course, I went into the Lekki markets and I saw a lot of people who would have different bags, introduced myself to a lot of the bag makers and all the retailers over there. And, you have to actually really immerse yourself into them because they, very, very skeptical. They don't really trust people,
That's right.
When you start asking questions. So it took a long process, a long while to actually convince one of them to actually come and work full time with me. But before then, what I did was I simply, and people find it very hard to believe, took 6,000 naira and I bought a really, really good croc bag, right? And I sold it. I sold it for 35,000 naira. Right? People will buy it for that quality and for that price because one, I put a name on it. I put my brand name on it. I told a story around it, and I made it into an actual luxury brand simply by storytelling. Okay. And that 35,000 naira was invested back into the business, obviously, and then used to buy several more bags, which we then sold, and so on and so forth. And that's pretty much the genesis of that 6,000 naira story.
So I think that's quite encouraging, isn't it? Because sometimes people will put finances as a barrier, but then knowing that someone like you can, get something from very little and then multiply it is quite key to be able to hold on to that truth that they can find whatever it is that they do, start with the little that you have and then build from there, rather than waiting for, I got to wait until I have this or wait until I have that.
Exactly.
So now looking at coaching, then just tell us in about 30 seconds, how did you become a coach? How did you get into the line of coaching? Because I know you did, that wasn't what you studied at university and that wasn't what you were working in. So how did coaching come about?
Okay, of course, I studied chemical engineering and I went straight into investment banking, right? And then, of course, when I moved back to Nigeria, I started working with investment banking, but then also primarily with management consultants, right? So working with management consultants meant that I got that hands-on experience with dealing with people in businesses who are looking for solutions for all of their problems. So with that experience, and of course, having worked with investment banking as well, it meant that I had a very good general knowledge, or rather a very good bird's eye view of, how businesses should work, how we can prefer solutions for them. And again, also having a good, strong grasp of how to actually develop financial models and make sure the business is financially sustainable. And so for that, it was very easy for me to then go into coaching.
Yes.
Initially, I wanted to coach as broad a spectrum as possible, because to be honest, like, it's really something that I really enjoy. I love the beginning parts of businesses. I'm obsessed. Like, I just want to start a new business from the beginning all the way to actually selling and getting customers, and just watching businesses grow is something that I could never get tired of doing. So because I had that bird's eye view and just really wanting to work with people to help them, we have a lot of potential here, and we have a lot of intelligent people who just do not know how to begin. They don't know where to start. They don't know what the basic structure of businesses should look like, and what the step-by-step process, right, should be in terms of generating or starting a business. Of course, it's not a one size fits all, and there are different ways and different iterations, but there's some things that you have to have when you're in a business. You start a business, you have to have a brand identity. You have a business, you have to have goals. You have a business, you have to have done your numbers. So there's some specific things that you can't do without, which is obviously what led to my writing of the book, because I guess I got tired of talking to different people all the time and saying the same thing over and over again. Like, actually, I'm just going to put this down, and then you can just buy it and do it on your own, right? So that then led to me writing the book.
And the name of the book that you wrote?
It's called The Startup Star, because you can be a star.
The Startup Star.
With your business. Yeah,
and it gives you, and it's all the information that you need there in starting a business. Does that cover anything in terms of goal setting and achieving your goals and anything like that in that book?
Yes, it does. So, it's something that I actually created and designed myself. I have like goal setting templates that I generally, I used to give them, like, I used to sell them, but then I was like, actually, no, I'll just give these things out for free. It's like, it didn't cost me anything to make it. And not everything needs to be sold, right? So I created some goal setting templates that I still use now for myself. And every year I used to set my goals. I used to check on my progress. And I use it, for all the other businesses that I work with, all the other corporates that I work with, to help them set their own goals as well.
Fantastic. And I think that's a good thing to point out as well in terms of the knowledge. If you can share that knowledge out there so that people can become the stars or become what it is that they have the potential to become, it's great, because there's enough out there for everyone, right? But then obviously it takes that bit of time to be able to get that information out there.
Exactly.
So thank you for that. Now, let's go on to what we've come here for, because I think some people, when they're looking at setting goals and what they're, when they want to achieve something and they have so much motivation and they're so driven and they're like, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then you speak to them down the line and you say, oh, whatever happened to that dream or that goal of yours? And really, they just can't put their finger on what happened. Can we just talk about the barriers, first of all, to being able to achieve our goals? Because I think it's important to highlight what they are before we can then move on.
I think I find that most people, the biggest barrier to them is failure. Okay, a lot of people don't know how to come back from having failed from something. It could be one little thing and then another little thing and then another little thing. And then you just go, actually, I'm just not going to do this anymore because it's too difficult, or, but for me, I really, really embrace failure. I think failure is so good, because how else will you learn? How else can you be better? I think a lot of people, after they fail, they tend to give up and they tend to think, okay, because, it didn't work, it means that I shouldn't do it. But that's not, the way to look at it. The thing is, if you have a goal and your plans don't work, don't change your goal, just change your plan.
Perfect. Yes. So change your plan so that you can actually achieve the goal, rather than hitting your head against a brick wall, doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Exactly.
So one of the things that I wanted to bring in today, which I know is so useful, it's such a useful tool, you can use it for anything. And based on what you've said as well, changing the plan, not changing the goal, is the experiential learning cycle. And for those of you out there who are familiar with it, or maybe not, it basically just starts off with your experience. What is your experience? It could be positive, it could be negative. And then you go on to say you've had your experience. Now, what happened? just give you a quick example. So I left my keys at home. I couldn't find my keys when it was time to get out into the, to get to the car. And therefore I was late for a meeting. And then as a result of that, people don't think I'm reliable, X, Y, and Z. And then you move on to, that's what happened. You move on to, so what? Okay, so what's the impact of this thing that's happening to you that keeps on happening over and over again? Well, okay, because of that, then I'm not given responsibility. People don't look at me seriously. I can't get the promotion that I want, and I can't achieve my goals. Then the important thing is to move on to now what? Now, what are you going to do about it as a result of you being able to reflect and look at what's happening? And then you'll find your solutions in there. So I think looking at finding out why people don't achieve their goals starts off with the barriers for them. And I'm guessing the barriers will be very different. Can you give us some examples in your coaching experience of the different types of barriers for different types of people?
Wow. So, I mean, I'll tell you the biggest number one barrier is mental, right? The mental barrier where you just feel like, people just are generally self-deprecating. People have, what's this thing called? Imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is something that I deal with. I deal with imposter syndrome. So how much more people who, haven't had the same sort of experience as I have. Imposter syndrome just pretty much tells you every single time that, I can't do that. Of course I couldn't do that. I'm not valuable, and we just tend to deprecate ourselves so much. I find that imposter syndrome, people just feeling like they can't do what they think that they can do when really they can is the biggest barrier for me. And then the obvious one, which is something that we definitely face, and you touched on a little bit there, is funding. There's this narrative that we've generally just pegged around in the world, and especially even here, is that, if I don't have money, I can't do this. If I don't have connections, I can't do this. But it's not true. Now, and I'll take it back and I'll speak about my experience with starting the retail business. And with the bag business, I was very specific about not letting anybody know that it was me. I had no, affiliation with it. Till today, a lot of my friends don't even know that it's my business, and it's like a 4-year-old business. So I decided that I really just wanted to test out all of my principles, because if I can talk the talk, yeah, but I needed to be able to walk the walk and be able to say, look, I did this and it worked. Then being able to sit down and really, really create a brand that I knew that people would want to buy was one of the biggest achievements for me, because then I was able to dispel a lot of theories. One, if you don't have money, you can't do this, or you can't start this business. In fact, when I tell that story, a lot of people say, yeah, sure, whatever, 6,000 naira. But I'm like, actually, I didn't invest any money into that business until I had proof of concept. And proof of concept to me meant that people who had no idea who I was, who didn't know anything about me or the brand or whatever, would see it and would want to buy it without being forced or coerced into doing it. So as soon as I had proof of concept, then it then made sense for me to invest more of my money into that business to grow it, not even necessarily to, start it because it was already started and it had gotten off the ground. It was just about scaling and taking it to the next level. So again, just to reiterate, imposter syndrome is the lie of the devil. Okay. And I know that a lot of us deal with this. I deal with it occasionally. It's just a constant cycle of putting yourself down and just not really thinking that you can do what you're good. You're a big deal. We are a big deal. Okay.
Yes.
And it's sometimes very hard to accept that because we don't necessarily see ourselves the way other people see ourselves.
Right.
So you kind of
the
have
other
to
thing
just
as well,
fake.
yeah, and the other thing with that as well is that society might tell you that you're not worth it. So overcoming that barrier as well.
Right, exactly. The external one that you can't particularly control. And then the second thing for me, again, that I find is that, again, and it's another mental block. I'm just feeling like if I have no money, I can't do this business. If I have no connections, I can't do this business. I have a business idea, and in my opinion, I can't start it until I have a certain amount of money. But, I just find that your resources always find you. If you have an idea, put it down. Put down every single thing it is that you need to achieve that goal, and your resources will find you, and you begin to create minimum viable products. And minimum viable products is basically the cheapest, the smallest, most efficient way you can actually do whatever business idea you have without spending $1 million dollars, if you like. Okay, it's
Yeah.
finding the smallest iteration of that business idea that you can use to inform your decision to carry on or not. If you then have that small MVP and you test it on people and you go out there, because you can't have a business idea or you can't set goals if you don't actually go out. You need to go out, speak to
And
people,
action it.
talk to people, test.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're just selling to yourself. And remember that that's not the purpose of, being able to do that. So you need to go out there, test your smallest version before you then begin to say, okay, it's working, people are interested, and then more people may be interested in funding your business. So so those are the barriers, I think, mentally.
Can we move it slightly away from business for a second? Because
Okay.
we're looking at individuals just as people. We've got businesses, yes, we've got family life, we've got individual goals as well. So what
Yes.
do you think then are some of the barriers because to achieving individual goals that are not money related? Again, imposter syndrome I see can probably come to play in that.
So
Is there anything else?
okay, so I think something that I've learned, I learned over the past few years is actually tracking. Okay, and I'll give you this tip. I'm sure everybody uses Google Calendar, but how do you use Google Calendar is something that I find that people don't know. So there's this app that I use. I'll probably send it to you, so maybe you can share with everybody at some point after. And it's called the
That'd be
Life
great.
Architect. It's called the Life Architect app. And essentially,
Can you repeat that again?
Life Architect. I'll send
Life
it to you.
architect,
It's
like
called Life. So it's
architect.
like Life Architect, exactly.
Yep.
And so I've been using this app for quite a number of years. And what I do is I track every moment of my life, and it's not even in a tedious way, but in
Yes.
specific blocks, like 30-minute blocks or 1 hour blocks. So every activity that I do, I put it down. Well, I used to use a Google Calendar before, but now we use the Life Architect app. I put it down in my Life Architect app. I go back and we have different categories of all the important facets of life, whether it's learning, so personal development, whether it's education, whether it's
Fitness.
your physical health, your fitness, whether it's your devotion or your mental health, whether it's your spirituality, whether it's your actual work or business, whether it's relationships, because that's very, very important. So there's 9 different facets. Your relationships, your learning, running errands is another one, funny enough, and just generally
Okay.
all the other things. Yes, because you realize
Can
that
be time
actually running
consuming.
errands, yes, can be time consuming. So what I've done over the years is just really figure out all of the activities that I do that either don't generate me money or it's not helping me build my business or my career. It's not helping me grow in any way. I'm not relating to my friends or my family or my loved ones. So it's helped me over the years pretty much identify all the ways in which I waste time and waste my life. And I just have figured out how to eliminate it slowly, because you can't totally, but just trying to figure out what's important to you and then setting your goals around that. So at the beginning of the year, I'd say, okay, this year, these are the 9 facets of my life, okay, and these are the ways that I want to achieve these goals. In terms of physical goals, this is what I want to achieve. This is what I want to achieve with my learning goals. These are how many books I want to read, and begin to set those goals weekly, okay? Because another thing is that people set those goals for the entire year and then leave it, and then come December, they're like, yay!
Oh goodness!
I didn't do what I was supposed to do, but that's because you're not tracking. And I track weekly, I input daily so that I can track weekly. And every week I go back and I review my week, because you have to review. If you're not reviewing, how can you optimize? So I go back and I review, wow, I spent 10 hours watching Netflix. That's not going to happen again. Okay. Or I'm not getting enough sleep. Like my sleep target is 50 hours a week. I don't play, don't mess around. I have to hit my 50. So if it's important to you, you figure out the things that you need to take out. I know that if I need to go to bed early, it means that I'm not going to be watching Netflix till midnight. 10 o'clock, I cut it off. It's time for bed because I need to get my 6 hours or my 7 hours or my 8 hours a night. Right.
Definitely.
So being able
so you're saying
to
then
track,
the key. So you're saying that the key is actually documenting it so that you can see where the areas are, where the weak points are, and what's taking you away from achieving your goals. Because if you
Exactly.
don't write it down, then you're kind of walking blind. You don't know. You might hit
Blind.
them, you might not hit them. After all, what are they? Because you don't really, the thought, you've not really
Exactly.
written it down. So now,
Exactly.
one thing I want to really, just before we move on to the next one thing I want to try and find out as well is, how many people have you coached, or the coaching experience that you've had? How many people have a goal that you can tell the goal that they've mentioned is not really a goal that they want?
Okay.
Is that an issue? Sort of putting a goal that really, if you sit down and analyze it, you don't really want that in your life.
um okay, so I mean, I don't know, I don't know about that specifically, about not wanting something in your life, but more about not being realistic about it. And
Okay.
another thing is being able to set realistic goals. If your goals are not realistic, when you miss them, that's when the self-doubt starts to trickle in. That's when the self-deprecating starts, and then the imposter syndrome starts. Oh, I wasn't able to meet my goal, but did it make sense? Did you have all the resources to achieve those goals? Did you have all the tools to achieve those goals? Was it realistic, to begin with? So I always encourage people to actually sit down and use, when you're setting your goals, what's it called? Whether it's
Grow,
realistic,
or
time bound,
yeah,
and so on and so forth. Yeah.
and when you're actually going to implement it, the way forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I mean, where I wanted to go with this
Uh-huh.
is the fact that a lot of times we don't sit down and reflect what it is that we really want. We're kind of being pushed by either society or pushed by marketing, or whatever it is. Someone might say, okay, my goal is to be sat on a beach or something like that, just because it's what people say, it's what people do. So I'm going to ask a question, and I want the audience to answer in the chat. So the question is, type me in the inbox if it relates to you, if you've ever taken time out to reflect on what you want to get out of life. Okay, so if you sit down and think about, what is it that I really want out of life, and do I actually know what I want for life? Have I thought about it? Have I written it down? So while we continue to chat, I'm just going to see what comes in from that.
Have you really sat down to think about what you want from life?
I have, actually, and I do that both annually, and we also review. We do that as a family, but then I also take time myself to reflect. And again, I think one of the things that you pointed out is very key in terms of reevaluating, that constantly reevaluating where you are and whether it's helping you, the steps you need to take, whether it's going to help you to where you want to go to, is very key. Because you might find that actually your destinations change, and it's fine.
Yeah,
But if you
exactly.
don't take stock of where you are at that point in time, then you won't know that your desires have changed or your atmosphere has changed, and therefore things are different and you need to head somewhere else. So we're going to have a look and see in the chat. Is anybody out there actually sitting down and putting down your goals? So Wonuola, so we've talked about using coaching models like the GROW. So you put your goal, then is it realistic? Then you have your obstacles, if there are any obstacles there, or your options. What are your options in terms of how can you move this thing forward? And then how are you actually going to move this thing forward? What do you think then? Because a lot of people know this stuff. A lot of people know that they have to write down their goals to be able to measure them and to see if it's something that they can achieve. But what is actually stopping us? That's what I want to get down to the root of. What stops me after I've written it down? What stops me from then saying X, Y, and Z, this is what I need to do, and this is how I'm going to do it, and taking action?
I mean, Liz, I think it actually really has a lot to do with what you said before, really sitting down to evaluate what you want in life. When you're very, very clear about what it is you want in life, it makes it that much easier for you to take all the necessary steps to go for it. So I think a lot of people do set those goals that, like, either they're not realistic, they're not achievable, because they haven't really sat down to think about what they really, really want. Like you said, actually, that really resonated with me, because I was like, oh my goodness, that's a good point, actually. Are you doing things because of society, or do you really, really want to do it? So I think that the first thing is to really, like you said, identify whether or not this is really what you want, and identify what your motives towards having those goals are. And then
Oh,
the truth
good.
about it is the truth about it is you just need to get up and do it. Okay. In this
Right.
in this time, there's really there's no babysitting. You want to achieve something, you need to do it. Nobody's going to hold your hand unless you're super loaded and you're an executive and you can afford an executive coach to pretty much follow you everywhere you go, reminding you to not eat carbs or whatever. So I think it's just being self-motivated. And it's the same thing with children. You can't make them do what they don't want to do. So you need to figure out what it is that you actually enjoy doing and what you want to do. And it makes it that much easier. The reason why we don't achieve some of the goals we don't achieve is because we don't want to do it.
We don't really
actually
want
don't
them.
want to achieve those goals, or
Yes.
it's too difficult, or it's too challenging. And we tend to shy away from it. When you have something to do with work or with home or with your life that you're excited about and you really want to do, trust me, you will get up and do it. It's the
so
ones
easy,
that
isn't it?
Every time, and this is interesting, every time I'm hesitant to finish a task, I ask myself, why? Is it because I don't want to do it? Is it because I actually don't enjoy doing it? So why am I doing this? And it makes it so much easier to make decisions. I don't enjoy doing this. I'm not going to do it anymore. It's as simple as that.
Or if you have the funds, or you can collaborate with people, you can ask somebody else to do it who is passionate about doing that, and then you can focus on something else that you want to do as well.
You really want to do, it's just
finding the
realistic.
resources around you.
Exactly.
So what systems then can we put in place practically to help us? So you've mentioned the architect life.
Oh, Lifetect. I'll send it. I need to find it. Lifetect.
Finding the two words. Lifetect. So putting something like that in place. What else can we put in place to ensure that we go from the idea, the goal, once we've sat down and really thought about what it is that we want, to putting steps in place, the plan, how we're going to get there, and then finally getting there? What tools can we use? We can use Lifetect. What else?
Like a simple template, to be honest, Liz, is really all we need. Not all, but it's something that we can use. The template should be very specific, right? About what goals you're trying to achieve. And it's something, and again, I can share with everybody as well. I can, after this, I can just send it. The template, that you use should be very specific about the goals. So you sit down, you describe the goal. So you describe what it is the exact goal is. Then you go and then you go to the next tab, and then you then describe what the resources you need to achieve those goals. You have an idea of what the resources are. It's this, it's A and B, it's C, it's whatever. And then the second thing you do is actually identify who the people you need to achieve those goals with. So who's responsible? Is it me? Is it my lecturer? Is it my father? Is it my husband? Like, who are the people who are also co-responsible for these goals? And then the important thing, again, another important, because they're all important, is actually having timelines. If you don't have a timeline, then you're going absolutely nowhere. I find that even with my colleagues, I need to constantly remind them, okay, I say to them, oh, you have this thing to do, blah, 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 blah. And then they go off and do it. I realize that the times when there's no actual date and there's no actual deadline, they just get up and just, they don't bother, and they just do it whenever. So that's another thing, is when things are time bound, you have a target, you know who's responsible, you know what resources you need, and you have an exact idea of what the goal is. And then it makes it easier for you to then manage it, because then you can track your progress. And then after that, you know exactly where you are at every time. So you know what the deadline is, but then you're able to continue to do repeatable tracking of how much progress it is you've made. And every little progress is a celebration. So you need to celebrate every single progress, however little it is. Oh, I wanted to redesign my house today, and all I did was move the table from one corner to the next. Yay! It is an actual achievement, and you should celebrate it. Celebrate the littlest things. That's another.
It gives you the motivation.
Gives you the motivation
to be able to then do the next bit, then the next bit, then the next bit.
Exactly. So whatever it is that you like, treat yourself, and say, well, you know what? I did a really good job today. I'm going to treat myself to whatever. I did a really good job towards achieving my goals. So I'm going to treat myself to, a nice pizza or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I achieved. So yeah, go on.
Yeah. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be a monetary thing. It could be, I'm going to go to bed early today, or I'm going to sit down and have a nice cold drink of water. But just
Exactly,
in your
exactly.
mind, you make that mental picture of once I do my goal, I can reward myself.
But you need to constantly track, because if you're not tracking, then you don't know how well you're doing.
Okay. And then what about people that suffer with lack of motivation? I'm going to bring in a question in a moment from PN, but what about people that just don't have the drive? They know it's something that they want or that they really should be aiming for their own good, not because of society, but they just don't have the drive. How do you overcome that barrier?
I honestly speaking, I think that if you're not driven, if you don't have the drive, then you don't want to do it. Drive is something that mostly comes naturally when you are driven by your goals, when you're driven by your targets, and you're driven by the place that you're trying to get to. You will find that drive. I find that, God, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how else to say it without being, without, sounding like it's not it's something that people definitely lack. Okay, I think that, okay, well, let me be practical about it. When I'm not motivated to do something, I do something that I'm excited about. I do something I'm excited to do, and I get my motivation from there, and then I channel it. So
Right.
I say, okay, look,
Ah.
if what I want to do, is watch, Hollywood on Netflix, right? And I know that I need to do something. I say to myself, okay, do you know what? If you do this, and then you can get that treat. It's the same thing I use for my children. My children, they want to learn the saxophone, right? But for me, I'm like, okay, the saxophone would be a treat. You need to learn the piano so that you have a wider range of all the notes. So if you play your piano for 20 minutes, then I'll let you play your sax for 25 minutes. And it's like, okay, fine, fine, fine. And then it's like a carrot, like you just dangle it in front of them. And then they're more
Yes.
motivated to actually do, because they know that at the end of it, they get to do what they really, really want to
Really
do.
want to do.
But and that's fine as children. But then as adults, I think that you need to really, really be honest with yourself. Why am I in this? You have the authority, you have the power to take yourself out of any situation that you don't want to be in. I know that a lot of it could be work related, and you're like, well, I have to eat, I need to earn, so I need to go to work. Fine. But guess what? You still do not have to be stuck in a job that you don't like and you don't enjoy, because you're not productive. You're not giving your employers the best, and you're not getting the best out of what you're doing. So I think that it's very, very important to really sit down and make those hard life decisions where you actually review yourself, your life, where
Yes.
you want to go, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there. Because, man, life is, it's just not worth it being stuck somewhere that you don't want to be. And I don't advise it for anybody at all.
So try and find the opportunities to break into the you that you want to be right now,
I like
rather
that.
than
Yes.
waiting. You don't have to wait until, people say, oh, when I retire, I'm going to do this. Well, you might never get the chance to retire. That's the
Exactly.
truth. So what
Exactly.
can you do right now? And what are the things the resources that you have available to you right now that will help you make that shift? And it might just be a
Right.
little shift from, little by little. And then
Right.
you'll find that you've taken the steps that you need to get to your end goal rather than waiting for however many years. So I've got a
Yeah.
question here from PN. And she says, I've heard that we cannot all be entrepreneurs. Do you believe that? What does it mean when you can't come up with a single business plan? When the start is only issue, is the only issue.
When the start is the only issue. Okay. I do believe that not everybody is an entrepreneur. I think that people are different. And I think that entrepreneurs have a completely different spirit from people who are very, very diligent and dedicated workers for other people. Okay.
Yes.
And I don't think that there's anything wrong with working hard to help somebody build their own goal. It's about servitude at the end of the day. And without being religious, serving is a great form of building, and building yourself and building other people. I don't think that, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, naturally, if you like, and I've been an entrepreneur for about 12 years now. However, I decided that I wanted to get a job. And I started working, 3 months ago. Yes, I went in as a C-suite person or whatever, and I'm the head of the business. However, But the decision to go back into full-time employment,
Yes.
it wasn't a decision I took lightly, but then I also had to think about, actually, what do I want? And it was one of those, what do I really want right now? What am I actually trying to achieve? And for me, I wanted to make impact. I wanted to impact more people. I wanted to have the opportunity to impact more people at a larger scale. And I understood that within my own space and within my own influence, I couldn't do as much as I would have liked to do. Yes, I may decide to go back into full-time entrepreneurship later on down the line when I've grown, I've groomed, I've learned, I've, been more challenged. I may decide to go back, but I don't think that, entrepreneurship is for everybody. Right now, I'm a semi-entrepreneur, so I'm working, but I still have my other businesses that I'm still doing on the side, which is like the Nigerian national anthem. You have to have two things that you're doing or whatever, you're snoozing. But I don't personally think that, everyone should be an entrepreneur. And in terms of starting, again, it really just depends on where you are. And I also understood that it's a big challenge for a lot of people not knowing how to start. Like, where do I begin? Like, I can't even put this idea to paper. But guess what? It's okay to delegate. I find that I do my best work when I'm not the one doing all of the work. Okay.
Yeah.
I find, okay, look, this person is a designer, help me to do this design. Or this person, and pay them for it. Okay. So I don't think there's anything wrong with delegating, understanding what your skills are, understanding what other people's skills are, and taking advantage of them for the better good. Okay, you don't know how to do a business plan, ask somebody else to do it for you. Tell them your dream, let them put it together. You don't know how to do your brand identity, speak to a graphic designer, let them do it. So there's different ways that you can start your business without starting it alone. And I think that that's another thing that we need to break. You don't have to be alone. There's other people, there's people who you can collaborate with, there's people who you can work with. Let people who are good at what they do what they do. Entrepreneurs, might be good at being the head of the business, being good at strategy, but doesn't mean that they're good with numbers, doesn't mean they're good with marketing. So you need to understand what your strengths are and use it to your advantage, and then also understand what other people's strengths are and then use it to your advantage as well.
And I think the other thing to point out as well is that there's lots of resources out there with the internet. I mean, the way we live today, we're just sometimes I think it's information overload, but if you know exactly what you want, so business plan or how to start a business, you could get a book, you could go on the internet and watch a video.
Let me tell you what I do if I need to know about something. So I'm trying to learn about, I'm trying to learn about how to take care of a dog. You just Google the simplest thing, say how to take care of dogs for dummies. I'm not joking. And then it's break it down to the simplest stuff. I want to start a water factory. You say water factory for dummies.
For dummies.
For dummies. Because it's like, okay, I'm going to assume that I'm a dummy, right? And just give me all the information as simplified as possible. And trust me, Google understands. He understands
the people that need that information.
Like, please, I need information for dummies. So that's a good way to search, actually.
How to achieve my goals for dummies.
For dummies.
Right, okay. Top tip here. Let all of us dummies go and put it in, because at the end of the day, what's the worst that could happen? You're going to learn, right?
Exactly.
And you're going to learn from somebody else who's been through it. And you'll probably not make the same mistakes that they've made as well.
Exactly.
So I think there's one thing to be said about learning from other people's experiences. Looking at other people, you don't have to necessarily have gone through it yourself to be knowledgeable about something or to use it to your advantage. So that's quite good. We've motivation, I think, is probably one of the things that, if I'm right, a lot of the people in the audience would be struggling with. And one thing, if I could throw my 2 pence in there, one thing to point out is, like you've said, writing something down is very key. And exactly how you're going to do it. On Monday, I'm going to put aside 1 hour to do X, Y, and whatever task it is, so that you know that on Monday, this is what I need to do. It's not just, when I feel like doing it. Because then if you say when I feel like doing it, you might not feel like doing it for 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And then before you know it, the end of the year's here.
You have to be
the word.
Disciplined. And
is it okay to have discipline without motivation?
Yeah, well, because, and you know what's funny? Discipline begets motivation. And you know what they say, if you're somebody who doesn't like exercise, hang out with people who like exercise, and before you know it, you will like it too, because it will rub off on you. And that's literally the way it goes. I remember when I started just before I started boxing, I decided to get a gym buddy, right? And my gym buddy is somebody who's super motivated about the gym. She loves it. I don't love it. I didn't love it. I don't like working out. I was like, why am I doing this? But because of her consistency and because of her drive, before I could blink, I was also somebody who was a gym goer. I was also somebody who was motivating other people. So you need to also be able to associate yourselves with people who have the attributes and have the skills and have the knowledge that you want. It's the same thing for reading books. When I decided that I wanted to read 52 books a year, trust me, it's crazy. It's like one audiobook a week minimum. I decided that, okay, I need to join a book club because I don't particularly like reading. I don't have time. In my mind, I don't have time. But what do? I need to force myself into that situation. And it meant that I joined a book club of people who then begin to hold me accountable. And it's like, okay, this is the book for the week. We're going to discuss it later. So surrounding yourself with people who have the same attributes, the same characteristics, and the same talents that you are trying to achieve will rub off on you. It is the most obvious thing that is not even obvious. You will be motivated if you hang around motivated people. You will be, focused and diligent and disciplined if you hang around people who are like that. So
that's right. Yeah. So choose your associates, choose your friends wisely.
Yes.
Wisely then. So if you're somebody that's interested in, your growth, your personal development growth, all that kind of thing, then actually hang around with people who are also looking to improve themselves financially, spiritually, physically. Because I think the other thing as well is being able to, as you said, you mentioned an accountability buddy. So you had the person at the gym that would be like, okay, let's go and do this, keep you pumped up. Some of their motivation would rub up on you. But do you thank her now?
I love her so much. Like now I'm like, you changed my life, because now I don't need her anymore. Now I get up at 5:30 every day and I go for a run, or I go to the gym, I go for box. So I don't need her anymore. And it took a while, before I realized actually I don't need her to go to the gym. I can just get up and go. But then the association really, really, really made a difference and made an impact.
So I think that's really good, and a good tip for everybody to actually put into place. I've got a question here from Gorgeous Linz, but before I go in there, I have seen your question, and we are going to put that over to Mrs. Okoye. And what I want to try and pull from your mind or from your experience really is the systems that we can put in place to actually help us achieve our goals. Because I don't want people to walk away and just be like, okay, yeah, another discussion about goals. I watched a video about goals and and then still they're in the same position. So you have to write it down, first of all. And you really need to look into, is it something that you really want, or is it just something that society says, I want to have a car. Well, hold on a second. You can walk to work. You can walk to the supermarket. You can do everything you want by walking or cycling. So do you really need a car, or are there some deeper reasons why you just want that item or you want that goal? So identifying the goal, then putting it down and tracking it. So you mentioned that you could track it on a weekly basis, but you put it down on a daily basis. Is that correct?
So when I meant tracking is I make a note of everything that I do with every hour of my day. So at the end of the day, before I go to bed, I go, okay, between this time and this time, I did this and did that and did this and I did this. And every category is specific. So, if by physical activity, I highlight that. If it's about learning, I highlight that. If it's working, I highlight it as well. Okay, and this is what the Life Architect app does. I'm really going to send it to you because it's actually such a great app.
That's really good.
And I track what I've done the entire day. And at the end of the week, it gives you a life score. So you know how well you've done. Okay, you know what you're trying to achieve in life, and it kind of helps you achieve those goals. Every week, I set new goals. So 10 hours this week I want to do for my devotional. 7 hours I want to do physical. 5 hours I want to do learning. So I want to be reading my audiobooks for 5 hours this week. And these are actual facts. So I'm telling you my real goals for this week. 45 hours, how many hours I want to spend working this week. 50 hours is how many hours I want to spend sleeping. 15 hours is how much I want to spend connecting with people, whether it's my husband, my children, at least this week. So I break it down to the hour. So I know, that, yes, I'm actually achieving what I do. And it makes a difference and it makes an impact on my life because I've sat down and I've thought, what kind of life do I want to have? What kind of family do I want to have? What do I want my finances to look like? What do I want my body to look like? Because, that physical, so I'm very specific about what I want to achieve. It might seem, like you're being pedantic, but you know what? It's the only way you can guarantee that you will get to where you really want to go. And that's the difference between people who really, really make it and people who are just passive in life. You need to actually put your back into it in order to achieve those things that you're specific about. My goals are going to be different from yours. You might have no interest in being physically fit, but you're more interested in, being, devoted to gardening or whatever, so that may be your own life goal. So the first and foremost thing is to sit down and really design the life that you want. Design the life that you want.
So the putting down of your goals, and you said weekly, but then before you, at the end of the day, go back to say, this is what I did, this is what I did, this is what I did. In the morning, do you look to say, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah, so
it works both ways.
I do that, but it doesn't always work for me. It might work for some people, but I'm also a bit weird that I don't want to be like forced to do something because I said I was going to do it, because then I won't be able to rest until I've done it. So I try to leave my days open as possible. I know my goals, so I have it in the back of my mind that I want to be spending this amount of hours doing this or this and that. So I have it at the back of my mind. But I know a lot of people who also use the app, like my friends, they're very like, okay, between 10 and 12, I'm going to do this. And it's a brilliant way to do it. And you become what you want. You become what you do repeatedly. At 9 o'clock every day, your kids know that, this is mommy's time to read, so we don't disturb her. She has said this is her reading time, so we don't go there, So people then begin to move to your rhythm, and they know, okay, this is what she's like. And then they don't impose things on you because they understand that you're focused on your goals and focused on achieving what exactly. So,
So a question here from a gorgeous Linz. Okay. Welcome. So what do you really do when you have the idea, identifying the areas, but not having resources to pull off your goal? And I think I can guess what you're going to say, but go ahead.
Why? What do you think I was going to say? Because that's not what I was going to say.
It's not what you're going to say. Right. I think that you are going to say that you need to pull the resources that you have available to you. So it could be friends. It might not be something that you have to pay for. It could be friends. It could be, free resources, and make what you can out of that to get your minimal viable product. Go on. Yes. So what were you going to say?
Yes. Clap for her. Round of applause.
I've been listening.
I mean, I'm shocked.
But in your own words.
I thought I was talking to myself. No, so absolutely right. I mean, the first people you need to look to, the 3 Fs, they say: friends, family, and fools. Fools that will help you believe in your dream and help you believe in your idea. But the most critical thing, like I said earlier, is to really, really identify what the smallest iteration of that business is, because you never want to get to a point where you don't have proof of concept. And a lot of people have this issue. They design a product, or they design a business, or they have this idea that nobody wants, nobody's asked for, nobody's looking for, nobody cares about it, but you think it's a good idea because you think it's a good idea. But we also need to always remove ourselves from that situation and think, actually, do people want it? And the only way to know if people want it is to actually develop a small version of it. Say, for example, you're a designer, or you want to start doing home services as a doctor, for example. You'll find people who are looking for free care. And you'll be like, I'm going to come to your house and do the consultation and see how it works. Are people interested in it? Do people still ask you for it? Are people willing to pay for it? You need to first get 10 people to pay for what you're offering, and then 20, and then, begin to grow exponentially. That's what it is. Once you can get the first 10, then you're well on your way. But you need to find the smallest version of it. Be creative. This is where creativity comes into place. You think it through, to the minutest detail of how you can actually achieve this with the smallest resources. And if you still think that you don't have your resources, again, then you begin to put together a proper plan, and then you shop it around to people who you believe will be able to take that business or that idea or that plan to the next level. Find like-minded people, find motivated people, find people who, you know, will understand what it is you're selling. But even more importantly, you yourself need to be able to sell what you're selling and push it. But you cannot
believe in it.
You cannot, you know, ask somebody else to believe in it when you don't even have proof of concept. You need to have proof of concept, because then you invest your time, invest money for a product or an idea that nobody's interested in.
So we've just had hopefully that's answered your question, my gorgeous Linz. And it really, hopefully, should shatter some of those barriers, because you might have two different people. One person says, look, those are some barriers that are stopping me from achieving this goal right now. But they'll sit down and say, well, how can I overcome each of these barriers? Whereas if you go down the path of, those are the barriers that are stopping me from achieving this goal right now, I'm not going to do anything about it. Which one do you think is going to go further in their goal, or move forward to achieving the goal? Because really, barriers are only opportunities that haven't been solved yet. You know, you've got that barrier yet, we'll find a way around it. I was watching something that the gentleman was saying, well, he managed to film a whole movie using one camera and just a little, you know, audio equipment. And other people around him would be expecting for him to have a film crew with lights and everything. But actually, he was like, this is what I have right now. Let me just go and do it. I don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to, you know, wait for other people's permissions to be able to do that. Okay, so now we only have a few minutes left. We've got, we've only got a few minutes left. So I am going to just get those last few tips from you. What I want to find out is, what are your 3 main points or action points for everybody who's listening right now to take away? What are the 3 most important things that you'd say they should do right now?
Okay, the first thing is really sit down and design the life that you want. Design the life, design the family, design the business, design the finances that you want. Once you've been able to design that, you then use that to set your goals. And you set your goals and make sure that they're realistic, they're achievable, they're time bound, you know, and you know, you can actually achieve those goals that you're setting. Also figure out what your resources are. So design the life you want, set the goals to achieve the life that you want. Iterate. So check in on it every day. It's okay to fail. Failure is good. So when you fail, don't think about, oh, you know, I'm going to change my goal. No, don't change your goal. Just go back and change the plan. Design the life that you want. Set the goals that you want to achieve the life that you have designed. And then the final thing you need to do is figure out who you're going to be associated with. Associate with people who are like-minded. Associate with people who you know will motivate you, who are motivated, who are focused on where they're trying to go to, and have similar ideas or similar, trying to achieve, or rather that personify the qualities and the traits it is that you want to have as a person or you want to have as a business, and so on and so forth. Design the life that you want. Be honest, be realistic. Then design the goals to help you achieve the life that you want. And then surround yourself with people who will help you achieve those goals. That's it from me.
Very key, very key, actually identifying the people that will help you do that. And very well summarized there as well, because there are people that will try and take you away from your goal. So if there's one thing, there will always be the other side. So being wary of people that either don't encourage you to be able to achieve it, or specifically are preventing you from doing it as well. But thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining me here today. And I am going to be very good today with my time, because I know you've got to head back and do the things that you need to do. But thank you so much for sharing some of your coaching tips and tools and tips, and also just life experience as well, because it's not just about business. This is about life, you know, and sometimes you might have your individual goals, but then what we didn't touch upon today, we might get you back, is how to accommodate dual goals. So it could be something in a, partner's relationship, in a partnership of a business, or with a couple, or even a child and a parent. How do you work towards dual goals? But we'll probably leave that for another time. And please just let us know how people can get some of these gorgeous bags that you make there. How can people get it? How can people order, or what's the process?
Yes, a lot of our bags are actually made to order. We're very, very specific about being bespoke. So we create everything for every single individual. We love to customize. So if you go through our page, you'll find bags that have people's faces, people's names, people's children, random pictures, and random images. So we're very specific about making a bespoke bag for everyone. You can choose the color of hardware you want. You can choose the color of bag. You can, choose your art, and just.
But they'll all be leather. Will they all be leather?
Yeah, they're all exotic skin. So authentic, real exotic skin. So there's snake, croc, python, Burmese python, alligator, and so on and so forth.
And I'm guessing they're sourced ethically?
Yeah, they're sourced locally and ethically from a snake and croc farm.
Fantastic. Well, it looks really exciting, and looks I know you're very much into your fashion, because that's the industry that you're in. But so you could just go on. This is the Instagram page is called
Apart Africa.
Apart Africa. So just by going on there, you'll be able to send a message and get your specifically designed skin bag. So thank you very much for that. And thank you for coming once again, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Take care for now.
All right.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for watching and for your input and coming in and asking those questions and listening. Hopefully you've taken away something useful that you can put down today. And what I'll be doing is I'll be getting the name of that app and the link to how you can get the Life Architect app, and also the template as well, so that you can apply that as of now. You don't even need to wait for that. Take time to sit down, reflect on the goals that you want to achieve, make sure that they are realistic and it is really what you want. It's not just what society says you should want. Actually do the route map of how you're going to achieve that goal. What is it that you need to do right now? Do you need to move where you are at the moment? Do you need to save up some money? Do you need to make a phone call, send an email? And then as a result of that, once you put your pebbles in place, your stepping stones, that will help you to achieve your goal. And constantly review and assess and reflect on whether you're still going in the right direction. But hopefully that's been useful today. And I hope to be able to hear some good news stories from you when you go and put this into practice. But once again, thank you very much for coming on Let's Meet today. And thank you to my guest, Wonuola Okoye. Take care for now, and we'll be seeing you next week on Thursday, because we have a very exciting topic, which I'm just going to enjoy talking about. But all that information you can find on the playlist on A Producer's Life. So go ahead there now and have a scroll through to see what we've got coming up in the next few weeks. Take care for now. All the best, everyone. Bye-bye.